We've noticed a change in this, haven't we?
What's important, I think, for us to really look at is consumer behavior.
That's how we react as humans. We want it fast, we want it now.
And if you're still using the same marketing tactics, the same messaging, the same approach to that consumer from 10 years ago, you're missing out.
The consumer out there is thinking, there might be a better alternative.
We've found the institutions, we've brought them together in one place. And all of a sudden, you're instantly going in with 6, 7 offers, telling the person who wants to sell their house that I have 6, 7 offers right now. Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to a rousing episode here of the Real Estate Consumer Shift. How is everybody doing? I am Jason Wells, one of your co-hosts, and I'm with my partner,
Tim Evans. Wellsy, what's going on? What are we going to talk about today?
You know, man, I was thinking, for as much as I love football, and right now, I have to say, my Cougars are in sole possession of first
I hear
place
it every day. I know.
In the Big 12, undefeated BYU. For as
Iowa
much as,
State got beat.
which was
Kansas State.
just so too bad.
Yeah, their second loss. Yeah.
For as much as I love BYU, I love technology, but not as much as BYU, you see, but still, I love technology, you know?
Technology is great. Hey, I got it. Yeah, my daughter, youngest daughter, my grandson turned 2. And quick little story, this weekend, Sunday, 2:00, when the Cardinals kickoff is, and they have a birthday party out in the park, Gilbert Regional Park.
At kickoff.
And I'm a big Cardinal fan.
Who scheduled that?
And Cards are in first place at 5-4. My daughter, it's like she knows how to get underneath my skin and just like, okay, Zane's
I'm going to
birthday.
test how much Dad really cares.
I brought a TV, I brought the loudspeaker, and we watched it, and it was funny. At the park, all the dads came over and hung out with me because we had a little technology. We had the Starlinks, we had the power box, and we were plugged in watching the football game. And the kids, they could care less even if I didn't have it, they were on the swings and riding rides and going down the slides. And the moms were looking at the dads like, get out of here. You're so in trouble when we get home because it's Ye who brought this TV and you engaged yourself in watching the NFL,
but
the
you know
Cardinals
what?
play, beat the Bears.
Today, you are a legend in many office settings because they're talking about that.
They absolutely, yeah.
That's
got 2
amazing.
pings, like they want to know if I'm coming to the park next Sunday.
Yeah, see? We love technology.
Technology's great. That's what we have as a technology company for people that don't know. And we talk a little bit about cashoffers.pro, but it's also about what the consumer's doing and the shift. And Jason, you and I, before the show, we were talking a little bit about the history. And I know that back in like 07, 08, you did a lot of work with your team. You had a mega team, and as doing some attorney work for short sales, people that were upside down. But I remember those days, and man, they were tough. And I wasn't very adverse. I didn't shift in the short sales. I was one of those last adopters, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't have a skill set there, but obviously you had some understanding with it. Share a little bit about that. I think that's important because I think where we are today, we're sort of in that same thing where
it's mimicking it.
Yes, the wagon's running good, but then people just run it right off the cliff and there you are in the wagon.
And the thing about mimicking it is that it's not mimicking it like we're going to go back to short sales and foreclosures. Not saying that. Okay. What we're saying is that the way we do business had a fundamental change. And when you go back and you look, it was right there, 2007, 2008, as REOs were starting to come along. That was about the time I graduated from law school and I ended up getting my real estate license. My story began. And I came in and just said, I'm going to learn this short sale thing. I'm going to learn all about it. And I dove in head first, learned about short sales. And as a result, I learned to do real estate different than anybody else was doing it. There became others that, as you said, that were late adopters that came along and started figuring out, I better figure out how to sell this as a short sale, because you had really 2 options. You could be an REO agent or you figure out short sales, because the traditional sale
was gone.
Was non-existent.
And
if someone did put it up, you said before that you had the pretty house with the pretty sign that sat there until the sign was dilapidated and ugly.
It was hanging on, half hanging on the hook, and then that's when you start getting showings and
because now they're like, oh, this place is a dump. It must be an REO.
It had a scream distress.
Yeah,
right. It had a scream to get a showing
before it would get a showing. And what that was is, yes, there was an affordability part of it, just like we have today. There was an affordability part. It was a different kind of affordability. Still, it was about affordability. People were losing the ability to afford the house. Agents weren't able to sell homes the way they used to sell. It changed. It fundamentally changed from being I'm going to market the property, I'm going to promote it, I'm going to do open houses, those sort of activities, and it became knowing a process, developing a system, having a program in order to get the transaction completed. That's what it took to be successful back in especially about 2010 to about 2014. That was the reality of the market.
Let me ask a golden question here, and this I didn't ask you, so we haven't prepped. But do you think at that time, in that time frame, the consumer needed that service?
Oh, 100%. 100% the consumer was needing it. So you'd had this shift in the market, and what did the consumer need? The consumer needed to feel certain that you were going to take care of their problem. They needed to feel some hope that they could get out from under this albatross that was weighing them down.
Huge debt, right?
Yeah, that big debt they had. And learning how to do that process, learning how to have a system to bring that hope, provide that certainty, we're going to take care of you, was a big part of what we did from 2010 to 2014. And I remember in 2014, I'm pretty sure it was 2014, I was trying to remember that fiscal cliff.
I believe it was in 2014.
The government shut down and all these things were going down, and we're going to go over the fiscal cliff. Right? Yeah. And everything ground to a halt for about 5-6 months. And when it started back up, it was a quote traditional normal market. So now I had to learn how to sell like a traditional agent.
You had to sort of reinvent yourself a little bit.
Exactly. I had to reinvent myself because it went from being this product system that you would sell with to being a much more of a marketing relationship, sort of a sales process that we are more accustomed to now that we've now been in for the last 8-9 years.
The equity started coming up, the offers, the market started shifting, so everything started falling into place more into, I guess, a traditional sense, right?
Yeah.
So the short sales weren't quite as prevalent.
Short sales started going away, and that was the primary part of my business. As an attorney, we were doing, at any time we were negotiating about 150 short sales between our law firm and our real estate company. So at any time we had just an inordinate number of short sales going on, and all of a sudden we were down to like 25 and then 15. I'm like, well, we gotta figure this out. And what was happening was, because the market was improving, the consumer started coming back around. The consumer now wanted to get back into the house. All those people that had before said, I'm never going to buy a house again, I'm just going to rent it. This was just a terrible experience, whatever. They were now ready to get back in the house. Those were those boomerang buyers that started coming back. So these boomerang buyers started all coming back into the market, which drove a lot of the prices going up because now homes could sell. This carried on for the next, like I said, about 7-8 years until we get to about 2000. We have the pandemic that then accelerates some behavior of like, oh, wait a minute, I can do things differently. The consumer sees I don't have to sit in one place. I can be remote, or I can have a further drive, or I just want something different, right? And I can
see properties different. I can view properties,
everything now comes to my house. So why can't everything just come to my house? Right. Amazon, Uber Eats, everything exploded.
All came out of the ground. Mm-hmm.
Well, 2022 through that 2021, 2022 era, I think what we see in real estate is the consumers start to say, I want that in real estate. I want that convenience here. I want more certainty in my transaction. If I'm going to list my house, I want to know for sure it's going to sell. Well, it wasn't too far of a cry for them to have certainty because homes were selling in like 2 days.
Right.
But that was what they wanted. I want certainty. I want speed. I want it on my time. And all of a sudden...
And with price in mind.
Completely, right?
Yeah, adding that other piece in there.
Price and all of that, I think, actually became sort of a foregone conclusion to them that they would be able to get the highest price that they would want for their home, because everything, when you put it on, got bid way up. So it was almost like this foregone conclusion that they had: when I put my house on the market, I'll be able to get the highest price. It's just a matter of can I do it in the time frame that I want, under the conditions that I need to get me where I have to be. Mm-hmm. And once they had those in line, it would happen. That worked fine until about 22. when inflation really began to hit, and we began to really feel it there in 22, what was doing to prices for our consumer goods. And that then put it a really tight hold on our disposable income as interest rates started going up and mortgages went up, to get us to where we are here today, which is a new way of needing to sell to the consumer.
Right.
Once again.
It's like you look at the history. I remember the old timers back in the 80s, the interest rates were like 17, 18%. Remember that? So they had a
I don't remember, but I've been told it a lot.
Yeah. So, the process and techniques that those agents had to go through. And then we had the crisis in 07 with the foreclosures and the market then. And now when COVID hit, there was inflation, right? Because people weren't working, they had to pay for that. So, and that's impacted the real estate market. So you have to reinvent yourself, right? So what is the answer for an agent? They can, like say, be in that wagon, go off the cliff, right? Or reinvent yourself, figure out what you offer as a service or a product that's going to separate you, that's going to help a consumer.
Entirely. And that need to separate yourself, one could listen to this and you may be listening and say, well, that's always the case. You always have to have a unique value proposition or a unique selling proposition. You got to establish it. Yeah, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about from about 2014 to, we're going to say 22. We're just going to put those as the kind of the time frame. Everybody was doing kind of the same thing. There was a herd mentality around how you sold. And so then it was really about the relationship. And I'm not saying real estate won't ever be about the relationship. I think it will be. And there is a value piece that comes above and beyond that consumers started looking for. And they have been looking for it really heavily since 2020. And in 2022, I think is where we really started to see that the market was beginning to change. If we look at the consumer, if we just look at the market itself, there's all kinds of reasons to tell our stories that, oh, it's just the same. I just need to work my database harder. Well, I'm sorry. If you have 500 people in your database, and normally you're going to get about 15% of those that are going to transact in a year. And then in this, statistically speaking, and we're down to less than half of that now. I mean, the last report was that 2.5% of all homes in the U.S. had actually gone under contract this year. 2.5%. That's like no movement at all.
It's pretty.
So stagnated. You have to sell differently. It's not just about, okay, I'm going to take more people to coffee. I have to sell differently because I have to sell to the people at that 500. Let's say that 500 that was at 15% is now at 10%. Well, my livelihood was based on 5%. I've got to make up that 5%. Where am I going to get that? I better be out there offering something to the consumer that they believe they cannot find anywhere else. Because if they think they can find it with just their regular agent, then they won't talk to you. But if they think they can't get it anywhere else but you, they are coming to you. Google shows this. Their statistics, their analysis during COVID showed that 54% of your database is willing to try another brand. They're willing to cheat on you.
That's scary. As somebody that, you spend time with people, you do movie events with them, or you do special occasions or dinners, and then there's another option. And then you find out later, we've all been through this if we've done real estate, like, sorry, I just went over here because it was better for our family. It was better for,
nothing personal.
Susie and I.
It was just better for us. Yeah,
just better for us. And, we appreciate you, love you still, and we'll consider you on our next move, next journey.
How many of y'all heard that?
That is like the knife in the back, right? But it happens. So how, like I say, how you position yourself in the change and in some of the technique and what's out there. It may be cash offers, it may be not, but what are you doing as an individual to shift, right?
Yeah, you have to look at your market and understand your consumer base. What is it that they really need? What is it that they want before they need, in fact? Why do they want something? And irrespective of whether you think it's necessary or not, it doesn't matter. Okay, what you think does not matter. The market doesn't care what you think. The consumer doesn't care what you think.
Right.
You have to start understanding and listening to what they think, and then meet them with what it is they think they need or think they want. What we have found is one of those great things is finding a way to deliver convenience, certainty, speed. And I think that's something really right now.
Choice, yeah.
That speed and choice right now are the things the consumer needs more than anything. With the home sitting on the market 4 or 5 months, speed, if you can market around speed and you have a way to deliver speed, you are speaking a language that the consumer says, I don't hear anyone else saying that. I don't know that if anyone else could do it. I'm going to give them a try.
Do you and I think sometimes as agents, and we're agents, Jason are agents, and we think the consumer really doesn't pay attention to certain things. But I will tell you, a seller thinking of selling their home, if there's a home across the street that's sitting on the market for 6 months and it's not selling, what do you think they're processing? Like if their home's nice and it looks great and it's sitting on the market and it's not selling, it's been on the market 90 days, 100 days, whatever. What's going to happen to our home?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think they're thinking, right? Like, maybe you ought to look up some other things. Like say, go to Google, go to AI,
maybe try something else.
But like, let's see what this looks like, and let's take a look at this and try to get an evaluation here, or try to get some baseline points here. And that's all Jason and I are saying. Are you positioned in that beginning stage of that thought process, right? Because they are smart. They figure things out pretty quick. And are you in that point of entry, the top of that funnel, I guess, right?
Are you there at the front of the line, first to the table, like as we like to refer to it? And I think that may be different in your market. So ask the consumer. Don't be afraid to ask the consumer. Just say, how do you want to sell? If you could sell your house any way possible, what would that look like? And you'll be amazed at the answers that you're going to get, because it's going to be some of the stuff that you do, but it's not what you do you should hear. It's what you don't do that you really need to take note of, because that's the part that they're saying, I want this, and they don't care whether you think it's relevant or not.
That's right. I remember my first open house, just freshly out of real estate school. And I'm like, man, I know this. Like, come on, buyers, come walk in my home, because I'm going to help you so quickly. That first buyer came in. It was in South Tempe here, where our office is close by here where we are. And they started saying, hey, do you know about this house for sale? And do you know this street? Do you know this one's for sale? And I felt so stupid because I didn't know the inventory, but they did.
Yep.
But I never took it for granted. Like the consumer, that was a learning lesson for me. They know.
They do.
They study the market just like we do. They're looking. They have access to data.
They do.
And anyways.
Well, you mentioned in our last podcast about the fact that the consumer in March, NAR statistics told us that the home seller on average was getting nearly 3 offers before putting their home on the market. They were going to 3 different places to get an offer of some sort, cash offer or some other kind of cash option, before
calling the real estate agent or calling a real estate company. It was a stat I was blown away.
Yeah.
And I think this goes for lenders as well. If you're a lender and you're listening to this podcast, these are the same challenges you face in trying to capture market share as well. Any position in a service product offering, how you separate, how you differentiate. I always say this as always, Jason, like, as quick as you can get away from the norms and standard, following that wagon off the cliff, especially when things tend to get tough.
Yes.
That is the key to really getting out and accelerating. And in these type of markets, you can do quite well and make it well and make a ton of money and service people you never thought you could service before. But anyways, great podcast. We're just about out of time.
I hope everybody got some good stuff out of that. I did. This was a good conversation. Even if it was a little bit of reminiscent, we're going to have to get Jake in post-op to do like a
yeah, Jacob, we need to get you on. Jake, yeah, we got radio voice, but Jacob's a fine young looking man, about 26, 27.
Indeed. When we start rolling out the TikToks and things,
he's our producer. Looks like Tom Cruise sitting back over here. Yeah. Hey, we might get some viewerships,
Right? Well, everybody, thanks for joining us. This has been the Real Estate Consumer Shift. Until we see you next time, think different.
You got it. Take care.